What it do, what it do. It's your boy Andre Spruell, and you are tuning in to the Middle of the Fence podcast. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day, whether you're listening, watching, or both. As I like to say, time is the most valuable thing on this earth because we could spend it but can't make it back. So as always, thank you for your time. And today, we have a very special guest today. Someone that has literally known me my whole life. I call her big sister, but everyone else knows her as Alexia Lawrence. Thank you for joining today's show. Thank you. So, we have a very special episode in store today for you guys. And, for those that have watched the previous episodes, you've seen some of my other guests. I even had my brother on here. And, it's I talk about my family so much. Why not make it a family affair, right? So, if you're ready, we could just get right into it.
Let's go.
All right. Awesome. So, you are the oldest out of the bunch of us as siblings. And so, you also grew up on both sides of the fence, just like all of us did. And on top of that, you were, like I mentioned, you were the oldest and the eldest daughter. And do you mind just discussing some of the biggest challenges for you as a result of that?
Yeah, so I would say that maybe the biggest challenge for me was navigating so much of kind of being on both sides, not just with school, but also then navigating into the corporate world on my own, right? So I had to, it was kind of instilled like, you need to be the example for your siblings and you need to be a good role model. And, then when I was going to school, especially with our age gaps, right, that we were just talking about of 5, 7, and 11 years. Yeah. I was going through those things, by myself. I was figuring out school by myself. When college, applications came around, I was doing that on my own. I mean, even financial aid. After I got all my, scholarships and grants, I was like, Mom, I need your W-2s.
like what the fuck is a W-2?
I'm doing all that by myself. Then I'm trying to schedule interviews once I graduated. So, I would say kind of navigating that on my own was probably the toughest thing. But I think that there was a strong sense of resilience that I gained from that, and just having to figure it out, right? There's no other way. You just need to figure it out. And in doing that, I was able to be a support to my siblings, which made me feel really proud.
That's awesome. And you mentioned that when it came to balancing and growing up on both sides of the fence, it wasn't just the education portion. It was also the professional aspect of it as well. So do you mind just giving a little further insight into that as well?
Yeah, definitely. So for us, and obviously I know you've spoken about it on previous episodes and growing up on both sides, and us really being in predominantly white schools, right? And then what was different for me in high school, I went to a predominantly black high school, though it was still a private school in Montclair. And I was still in these spaces where regardless of whether I was around people that were similar to me or maybe have looked similar to me or not, or had similar upbringings to me or not, I still didn't necessarily really fit in. It's like, well, why do you speak that way? Or, we live in apartments, you live in a house. So even within the same maybe tough terrain side, there was still those differences of well, you're not really like
Very
us, or you don't fit in here, or it's like you're not, white enough for the white kids, right? You're not black enough for the black kids. You're not Hispanic enough for the Hispanic kids.
Absolutely.
And it didn't matter that we were always taught to embrace all of our ethnicities and all of, the culture and beauty that we were brought up with. It was still okay, you don't really fit in here, right? So with that, I learned to be comfortable in standing on my own, even if that meant, hey, I don't maybe have the biggest group that I'm with. I always had friends, but I was very comfortable in standing on my own. Or if I had a falling out with a friend group, didn't matter to me. I was fine being by myself, you know? And then transitioning into the corporate world, I had to navigate that too. So and just for background, I have my career within staffing. I've been doing that for about 12 years. And so most of my workplaces were predominantly white spaces as well. And so I remember there were times I would go, even when I was interviewing, right? I have naturally curly hair, like I was saying earlier. It's the first time I straightened my hair in months since I got it done the last time, right? When I had it dyed. But I wouldn't wear my hair curly to interviews. Like, I would always make sure it was straightened. I would be very cognizant of, like, things that I was doing, because I'm like, all right, I need to fit this certain corporate mold to, achieve said goal. So yeah, I would say that those were kind of the things that I had to navigate, where it was always like, hey, like, you don't, you got to figure out how to make it work. Yeah. And then as I navigated through the corporate world, I got promoted at every single job I was in. I was able to move up. I was able to do really well.
Pop your shit.
Very, very proud of that. Moved into management in my mid-20s for multi-million-dollar accounts. So super proud of that. And then as I grew in my career and in my corporate experience, I became more comfortable. And I'm like, I don't need to shrink myself to make other people comfortable. I'm going to tell them what it is. I'm going to stick to what I believe. If, something, there's an injustice, right? Or something, like, because I worked in staffing. I would sometimes I wouldn't see the greatest things. I would call it out. Yeah. And I'm like, if someone doesn't like it, they don't like it. But I'm going to be true to myself. And in being in all these spaces where I had to learn myself, figure myself out, be true to me, I was able to then transition that comfort into those corporate spaces. And, like, doesn't matter what you think, doesn't matter if you have more experience than I do, I'm going to show up with confidence, and I'm going to kill it every time, because this is what it is,
And honestly, like, working in corporate as a minority, or just in general, like, it's not even about race or anything like that, you realize that, hey, certain people, just because they have a higher title doesn't mean that they're the smartest or actually know, like, what they're doing. Yeah. And when you were just giving your background with that, you basically mentioned how, like, after you had a certain amount of years under your belt, then you felt the comfort to speak up more and stand your ground and all that. Do you think that on top of being on top of not being white in those spaces, do you think that paired with being a woman was also like part of the challenge with being in those spaces?
To a certain degree, but I never, although I knew that I would probably be around people that already had preconceived notions about things like that, or whether conscious or unconscious biases, I never allowed that to really interfere with how I would navigate kind of those spaces, right? So I wouldn't have it in the back of my mind as a chip on my shoulder. If something happened and I recognized it and can put two and two together, okay, but I wouldn't go in and say, okay, I'm already at a disadvantage because I'm a female, I'm a young female in a leadership position, and I'm, a female of color. I'm just like, these are my credentials. This is where I feel I'm a subject matter in, and where my expertise is, and that's what I'm going to go off of, and I'm going to go in there confident. Even if I'm really nervous on the inside, I'm not going to show that. Yeah. And so I always led with confidence rather than things that may have, whether consciously or unconsciously, been stacked against me, and I think that's been a big part of my success career-wise.
That's really awesome. And transitioning from the career portion of things. For those that don't know, my sister is currently pregnant with her first child, so congrats to you on
Thank
that.
You.
First time being an uncle too, guys, so definitely looking very, very forward to that. And because of that, what have been some of the stigmas that you face with that? Because just because of background and then the age that you're going to be giving birth at, and amidst all that, you're navigating to get back into the corporate side of things. So how do you feel that also has affected the job search in any kind of way?
Definitely. So I'll start with, I'll kind of go in a bit of an order. So one, family wise, for us, our mom, for example, right, by 29, she already had all 4 kids. She had me when she was 18 years old. And so I feel like, especially when you grow up in these larger family units, especially, you know, multicultural ones, right? The expectation is everyone's having kids when they're younger. You're getting married. If you get married, you're younger. It's like you're doing all of these things younger. So once you're nearing 30 or once you hit 30 and beyond, it's like, oh, you're going to be an old maid. Oh, you're not married yet. Oh, when are we going to get our grandkids or great grands and all this stuff, right? So there was that kind of pressure. But for me, because we had such a young mom, and while it was great that we had that village of support, so to speak, I wanted to make sure that I was forging my own path, right? I didn't want to be a statistic of my mom was a teen mom, and what if I'm a teen mom, and you know, all of these things. So I made sure I was always very much on the straight and narrow, right? Like, I was an overachiever in school. I was an overachiever in my career. I really set myself up well, so that, you know, once I got to a point where I'm like, okay, like I know that now I definitely want children, because at one point I wasn't even sure, you know? That I was in a place where I was comfortable doing that. I knew I wasn't going to be struggling or needing more support than is typical, right?
Yeah, and I just wanted to quickly, like, interject and add that, like, 2 factors to that are that on the tough terrain, you definitely see a lot more young mothers than you do on, like, Affluent Acres side of the fence. And then also too, right, it's like you see, especially now more than ever and moving forward, women prioritizing their careers and making sure that they're set up before they even bring a child into this world.
Exactly. And so kind of segueing into that with the whole age, right? So I'm currently 34. When I give birth to Nia, I will be 2 months shy of 35 years old. And so with that, there are, you know, that's those sets of pressures, right? Because generally you're told, okay, like once you hit your 30s, it's a lot harder and all of these things. And before, you know, my husband and I started, you know, trying to start a family, I had done like hormone testing, and my levels were not good, right? So I was already freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what am I gonna do? I didn't go the egg freezing route. We didn't go an embryo freezing route. Like, what if this doesn't happen, and what am I gonna do then, right? And then you kind of get to that point, because right, kind of into like your late 20s, early 30s, it's like all your friends seem to be getting married, right? And it's like you're constantly like, oh my gosh,
I'm seeing that now, and it's like, oh my gosh.
And then it's like in your 30s, at least for me, with, you know, my general friend group, it was like, all right, or even, you know, people that maybe you lost touch with that you used to go to school with. It's like there's another pregnancy announcement, or someone's on their 2nd or 3rd kid, and you're invited to these baby showers. And then meanwhile, it's like behind the scenes, I was, you know, my husband and I were struggling and like not able to conceive for like maybe about a year, a little over a year. So then you're kind of in this place where you're so genuinely happy for, you know, the people around you that are able to start their families, that, you know, are having their babies. And at the same time, it's like you're so sad, because you're like, well, when is it going to be like my turn? Like, when is it going to happen for me? And what if it doesn't? Then like, what do I do? And for me, I was always okay with like, you know, what if I adopt, or I'm a foster parent or something like that? Those are all things I would still very much be interested in, but I definitely wanted to like have my own kids.
Of course.
So that's kind of a really tough thing to navigate. And then on the job front end of it, so I know you'd mentioned, obviously, you know, I am going to be jumping back into the job search. I was, you know, impacted by a layoff at a job I was at for the past 4 years. And I was notified the day after I got confirmation that I was pregnant, after I got the blood test results in, right? So here I am, like, all excited. You can't make this stuff up, guys. This
like,
is
life like authentic, like real life stuff right here.
So here I am, all excited to, like, you know, tell my boss and just be upfront with everything, so I could plan accordingly, because I'm a planner, right? I wanted to make sure everything was taken care of.
You always have been a planner, always.
So then I'm like ambushed, and HR joins the call, and then they tell me, and I'm like, oh, okay, right? And so, you know, I was kind of, I had to process that. I'm like, okay, like I'm not going to have this, but I am going to have this, you know, severance. I'm going to have all these things. I have savings. Like, I'm going to be okay. Like, I'm going to be good.
And we got the whole village with that family
exactly.
as well. So
and it doesn't hurt having a military husband.
You get those benefits. Right. Come on now.
So I don't have to worry about health insurance. But yeah, so I, you know, in thinking about the job search, I was like, okay, I am not going to, although I know legally you can't be discriminated against for, you know, being pregnant and things like that. I know how the staffing world works. And it's like, if you say that up front, it's like, oh, okay. Like, there's already going to be recruiters that have this preconceived notion of, oh, well, she's not even going to want to return to the workforce, or, you know, I'm not going to bother talking to this person and seeing what they want. So for me, unless I have an offer, like, we're not having that conversation, especially if it's a permanent position.
Yeah.
Like, if I have an offer, then yes, we'll have that conversation. But if it's like a contract role, obviously I wouldn't pursue that. I'm not going to put an employer or a staffing company in that situation. But, you know, now kind of thinking about it, especially as I'm further along, right? The job market is really tough. I mean, the landscape is nothing what it used to be. I mean, I used to, even in previous roles, within like 2 weeks, I could easily lock in another job. So I didn't think it would like take this long. So I thought I was like, all right, have some time. Clock in the 1250 hours, get my, you know, my leave. But yeah, so I just, as needed, essentially, I would disclose it. But I already, you know, as we said, I'm a planner. I already have my plans locked in, especially after I have Nia and things I want to do in the interim. So I'm not really, I know I'm going to be good. I'm very confident in that.
And that's a beautiful mindset to have, you know, especially when you go from the greatest news that you can hear that you've been wanting for such a long time, and then it goes into that DJ record scratch. And then the worst possible thing that you can hear. Oh my gosh. And, you know, just like insight to the audience, because again, we keep it real and authentic on Middle of the Fence here. And when you told us that, it was like, you told us that you were pregnant, we were all happy, and then it's like, but then the job thing happened. And, you know, it just felt good to, you know, let you know, and for you to feel and realize that after all the years of you being the eldest daughter and having to take on a motherly role for me and our siblings and all that it's a full circle moment that, you know, it's not an easy position that you're in, like at all. But the fact that we're all able to play our part and help you out during this is just, it feels good from that aspect.
And
you know?
And going off of you saying that too, that was something that was really hard for me to accept, because I was so used to like, my independent grind. Didn't matter if I was in a relationship or not. Didn't matter that I'm married, right? Like, I was always, I got it, I'm gonna take care of it. Like, that's just how I was. And so I had to take a step back and accept, like, you can take a breather. Like, the job was stressing you out. You were already passively looking for other opportunities. And this and that, you know, all of that stress could have really negative affected this pregnancy that you've literally been praying for. I mean, like, 100%. You know, even down to like putting a little onesies under the tree and praying, you know, with my husband about it. So, it turned out to be like a blessing in disguise. And then, you know, our mom had some health issues, and I was able to be there and help and take care of her and have all of that flexibility that I would not have had if I was still at, you know, this job that was stressing me out, that I was looking to leave anyway, you 100%. Know? So there's always, even in, I feel like, some of the most difficult times, a silver lining.
Absolutely. And, you know, we've already, you know, kind of touched on some deep stuff, so I do want to get a little more deeper and vulnerable. Yeah. So we welcome vulnerability to the fullest extent on this show. And do you mind opening up about the lowest moment you've experienced in your life and how you were able to overcome it? And before you answer that, the reason why I asked that is because obviously as the eldest daughter of siblings, growing up in a tough terrain neighborhood, while getting a private school education and Affluent Acres background and all that you've achieved, like education wise and professionally, you know, I just want to highlight that again, that even though on like the surface everything is like I'm doing good, everything's fine, we all have struggles that we go through. So do you mind opening up about that?
Yeah, I can actually, there's two stories that come to mind because they kind of like play into each other a little bit. So one, when I was younger, I would say like into like early teens, maybe just before starting high school, I had started self-harming. I was feeling like really depressed, really overwhelmed with a lot of things, and just seeing like struggles within the family, arguments, and just feeling like so much pressure to like overachieve, do really well, be the good example. Even though like I did a good job at it, it still felt overwhelming, and I felt like if I talked about, and again, this was just in my young mind, it wasn't reasonable, but like, oh, if I talked about like all these things that I'm feeling, like I'm going to be a burden, and I never wanted to be a burden. I wanted to make everything as easy as possible for everyone around me. So I was self-harming, and then I remember I had to go shopping for my 8th grade graduation dress. And I went with our uncle, because we used to go shopping together all the time. Like that was, at that point, like most of my wardrobe was Theo's. So we could do it, right? I remember I went to go and I tried on the dress, and I had like, you know, cuts on like on my arms. And he was like, what happened? Like, what is this? And I had to tell him. And so like we got the dress, we went home, and he told Mom, and then I was talking to her, and she had asked me, she was like, you know, like, what's going on? Like, have you ever thought of like actually like hurting yourself or doing anything? And I physically like couldn't get words out, so I just nodded. And so that was like a really low point for me, because like one, it's embarrassing, and two, I was still like pretty young to the point that I didn't really have like the words or knowledge to articulate like why. It was, I just knew like I feel really low, I feel really anxious, and then this makes me feel numb, and I'm okay for a little bit, you know?
Yeah, and for people that are listening or watching, you know, obviously, you know, thank you for being vulnerable enough to open up about that. But it just goes to show that, like, even with having such a great support system around you with the family and some of the friends that we've had, that even like despite that, you can still feel like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to open up about it because of the possibilities of what it can lead to as a result.
Yeah, and so with that, then the other thing too, even though like I had, you know, she was like, oh, have you ever thought about like actually like hurting yourself doing anything? You know, and I had thought about it, and this was something, it wasn't something that I did like all the time. It was like sporadic and did go on maybe some bit into my 20s. What I always thought of was like, obviously I thought about my family, but I thought about my siblings, right? And like that was a time where we all lived together in the house in Orange on Day Street. And you guys would just always randomly like come in my room or whatever. Like just had no idea what was going on. Like I could just be crying, and you guys like, Alexia, oh, I need this. And I'm like, all right.
Guys, really, really quick. That is true, first and foremost. And it was to the point that, like, let's say Alexia was like not in her room and we had to like get something from her room. And like we had to put it back. If it was off by like half an inch, she would know. Like she like, I don't know if it's like you know, secret like a detective skills or anything like that, but it's like we would go in there randomly, take something, put it back, and then we're like, when she comes back, like instantly, who was in my room? We're like, what? Like, how did you know?
But yeah, and so, and there was always like you know, it was always something that you guys were, even if it was just to mess with me, or you guys really did need something, right? And so I thought like, oh my gosh, like if I did ever like really harm myself, or like I wasn't here anymore, it's like all I could think of was if something happened to me and I was in my room and you guys came in and you saw that. And I was just like, I could not. So it was like, I was like, whatever I'm going through, whatever I'm feeling, like this will pass. And like my love for you guys was like greater than whatever I was like, I will deal with whatever, but I can't, like, I have to be here. I have to be here for them. So that was one. And then I would say in my 20s, so roughly from the ages of like 18 to 28, I was in a very, very long relationship, longer than I should have been, but whatever, live and you learn. Right. And so towards the end of that relationship, we lived together, and for the audience, like, I had already had my own place at this point when I lived in Pennsylvania for work. I came back because I didn't want to move to Maryland for this job, and then ended up moving with my then, boyfriend. And it was like in his parents' house. It was like third floor. They lived in a multifamily. It was nothing great. But I was so, and I was already well into my career. I think I was already on like my second or third promotion at the company I was at that time. And I was just doing so well overall. Like, on paper, like, I should have been so happy, and like I wasn't, because then I was so miserable in that relationship. And it was something where, like, I felt like I was always on edge. I had to be defensive. We were arguing a lot, and I just felt like we really brought out the worst in each other. And then it got to a point, like I said again, with like the self-harm, it was like sporadic, like once in a while. But then I was having like terrible panic attacks where I'm collapsing, I'm crying, I feel like I cannot breathe. And he was supportive a little bit in that, but then it started becoming like, oh gosh, this is so annoying. You're being dramatic, and like yelling at me on top of that. And I'm like, this guy, right? So I'm like, I can't live like this. I need to start going to therapy. I found a phenomenal therapist. And so she essentially, and so you go through all your family stuff, you go through what you're currently dealing with. And she was like, you have been suppressing so much for so long. She was like, and that's why it's manifesting this way. She was like, that's why you were self-harming. That's why you were having, these panic attacks. She's like, your body physically cannot take it, and you need to deal with it. And so that's what I started to work through in therapy, and finding healthy outlets and getting back to creative things that I like to do, and that was the most helpful for me. So here I am, like a couple months in, and I used to call him after every session and tell him like how it went, how great it was. And one day, it was like once a month, like on a weekend, I used to have like my day of beauty, right? I'd get my nails done, have all these appointments. And I came back, something like set him off, and then he said, I don't know why you're wasting your time with therapy. Like, it's not helping you. You're too effed up for anyone to like want to love you or care. Oh my God. And I was just like, oh my God. And I was like, record scratch moment. And I'm like, sorry, right? But I'm like, if that was a few months ago, maybe would have like thrown some hands. But
because I was like, terrain, right?
Don't let the corporate success fool you. Sorry. But I was like, okay. And so at that point, that's when I knew. I was just like, I need to get the hell out of here, right? Like, this is not it. And so I was just like, why would you say that? And I left, and I stopped answering the phone, right? And then I started, thinking about, all right, I need to get out of here. So navigating, so essentially overcoming that, right, was with therapy, identifying healthy coping mechanisms and the root of why I was feeling the way that I was in certain things. So fast forward, because I was able to save so much money in living there, because even though it wasn't the best, his parents weren't charging us rent, I texted him when he was on vacation with his mother, and I was like, hey, I looked at apartments, I signed the lease, and I'm moving on this date.
Peace.
And I was like, you can keep everything. You can keep all the furniture. You can keep the bed set. You can keep whatever. I was like, I just took my clothes and my shoes. I took all my spices, right? My seasonings for cooking and my baking appliances, and I did not look back. And I had this great apartment, had a luxury apartment, right? In West Windsor. So I went from someone that was like not supportive, that then it's like all of these negative things are manifesting and they're coming out physically. I'm getting the help that I need through therapy. And, I'm leaving this place that I didn't really like to begin with. And then it's like, I'm doing great in my career. I had gotten another job. Then I hit I surpassed my 6-figure income goal that I wanted before 30. And I started working out. I started, getting into bodybuilding. I had this beautiful apartment. Like, I went from having to drop my clothes off at the laundromat to, like, I have a walk-in closet. I have a balcony. I have in-unit washer dryer. We had the tennis courts, the pools, the gym on site. And I was like, yes, like, I did that, and I did it by myself, and it felt so good. Yeah. It felt so good.
And I just wanted to quickly add that, looking back, it was obviously the right decision to make, and sometimes in the moment it's hard to make that type of decision, especially because of the ride, like I'm the ride or die type of person, and it's just like it reaches a point sometimes where it's just like, okay, like it's all about like supporting your partner and being there through thick and thin, but sometimes it is just better off to just like let it go. And I feel like that the ride or die culture is something that is very prominent on like tough on the tough terrain side of things. So I definitely give you credit for that.
It definitely is, and like that's what I saw, right? So even though like our parents weren't married, they were together for I think it was like 12 years. I saw the bulk of it because I'm the oldest, know. So I got to see the really bad parts of that, and then also saw our grandparents' marriages that we know that there were things that weren't great all the time, and they still all stuck it out. And so there were things that I was like, well, I'd never want to do that. But again, it's like unconsciously you're repeating the things that you learn, and you're like, okay, well, they stuck it out. They did this. Even if, this was disrespectful or this was hurtful, they're still there. Until I reached a point where it's like, I don't want to be this person. I'm not happy, and I need to choose myself.
Absolutely. And when it comes to repeating those, either repeating or breaking those generational cycles, it actually ties in perfectly to my next question. You as the eldest daughter and me as the eldest son of our family, we set the example for our younger siblings to follow while being a beacon of hope for our family members to break the generational cycles. No pressure, right? What advice would you give to a child on the tough terrain growing up with that same type of pressure? So I'll go first, and then definitely like feel free to chime in and then give in like your portion with that. So like the trade-off of growing up in a high crime rated urban neighborhood while getting a private school education in a very affluent suburban area, right? It's like, you have a chance to really make something of yourself, right? Great. That's awesome. But the amount of pressure that comes along with that can be a lot. And for you, as the eldest daughter, I have to be the strong one. I have to set the example for my siblings and my family, And for me, as the eldest son, I got to learn from what you did and didn't do. So that worked in my favor. But for my end of things, because my personality type was more so like go with the flow to keep the peace and be a people pleaser, and Andre's always happy, he's always good, he's always he's always like ambitious and doing his thing, even as like a kid when with like sports and being a really good student and all that. But even with that, it's like I was always isolated and alone, despite being the life of the party and going to school and everyone, being around me and wanting to be in like my space. The pressure that I felt was different from the one that you had, and I don't regret it because it helped mold me into who I am. And through the experiences that I've had, I've learned to find my voice, and it's okay to stand up for myself, and it's okay to open up about what I'm going through, I didn't start opening up about my feelings to you and the family until like 4 years ago, probably like four or 5 years ago was when I finally took the step of like, hey man, like they are your loving and supportive system, like because as a man, like you're just taught. And from the tough terrain background, fuck it, I'm gonna find a way. I'm gonna be strong, and I'm gonna push through.
Yeah, like
no matter
nobody
what.
cares. Deal with it.
Like nobody cares. Deal with it. But then it just starts to build up inside of you, and you're just like, oh, man, I just need to let it out. And it was like the best thing. And opening up just allowed us to be stronger with our family and opening up to like my friends more about what I'm going through and all that. So I say all that to say that my piece of advice for, you know, someone that's one of the eldest growing up in a tough terrain background, trying to navigate through this world is give yourself the space and grace to like recognize when things are a little too much, and like recognize that you don't always have to be the strongest person in the room, and it's okay to open up about some of the challenges that you're going through, trying to navigate through life. And I feel like that also goes on the Affluent Acres side of things, because I've mentioned in previous episodes that just because you have the material success and have access to more than someone with that grew up in an urban background, you still face your own pressures. And, you know, don't feel like you have to just bottle it in and be super strong and tough. Like, open up. It's okay. So that's the advice that I would give. What's some of the advice that you would give in that type of situation?
Yeah, some advice that I would give is one, that you're always stronger than you think, and you're always going to make it through, and that the difficulties that you face, it's a difficult time. It's not a completely difficult life, because at the end of the day, you control your destiny.
That's right.
And that it's okay to give yourself grace. It's okay to be like, I am exhausted. I am beat. I just need a break. I need a day to just not do anything.
Ain't that the truth?
I'm overwhelmed because, like I said, things manifest physically. Like, you can also literally like make yourself sick, like your immune system shot. Hey, like I had this cold. Now I have this. Now I have that. It's stress. Like, chill out, calm down, Yeah. And that it's okay to ask for help. Whether that is, hey, I need to go see a therapist, or I need to confide in a close friend or a relative.
Someone to talk to.
Yeah, and that's okay. And I think when you feel all this pressure, you feel like you can't break down. And the weird thing about that is you're so, like, I got really good at being there for everyone else. Like, I could be having a complete breakdown by myself and somebody would call me needing me, and I'm like, all right, like, I'm here, what do you need? Yeah. Like, and giving them a pep talk, but I was just crying, and I could have gone to them, but I didn't, and it took me a really long time to see that there is a strength and beauty in being vulnerable. 100%. And that the people who are meant to be with you for the long haul are going to be there, and they're going to support you. It doesn't matter if you're at the top of your career or if you just got laid off, if you're the one who can always foot the bill, right? Yeah. Or you can't. It's like the people that love you for you, and not because of your titles or your salary or what certifications you have or any of those things. Like, the people that are really there for you are there for you, and that's your tribe, and that's who you need to continue to surround yourself with, and that's okay. And sometimes that's not going to come right away. There's going to be people that are there for a season, maybe a few years, maybe a decade or two, and sometimes those things fizzle out, and that's okay. You learned your lessons from that, you grow, and you keep it moving. But yeah, you're stronger than you think. And there's one quote, we mentioned in college, I went to Penn State, right? We are.
Shout out. Shout out. We are.
Penn State.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But I remember when I used to go home on breaks, I used to take the Fullington buses. Those were the really nice ones, right? But I remember one time I was just like really down, and I had, already put my luggage in, and the bus driver looked at me, and he's like, you look really sad. He's like, I don't know what's going on, but he was like, it's not so bad that it couldn't be worse. And that kind of always stuck with me, because I'm like, you know what? He's right. Like, and it's not to diminish, like, oh, well, my situation's worse than yours. But how it feels for you internally is different for everyone. And we can't say, oh, well, it's not that big a deal because I would have handled it this way, and why are you falling apart? Everyone's different, But again, it's okay to give yourself grace. You don't always have to be the strong one, and you're going to get through it no matter what, because then when you're like me and you're like 34 or even older, whatever, you can look back and say, all these things I thought completely broke me or maybe did break me, like, I made it past every single one of those things, and I am stronger, I'm wiser, I've learned so many lessons, and I'm a better person for that. And I think that's really important to focus on. Like, it's not hard forever.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just a great reminder that life is a journey. And these cliches that I bring up from time to time, they sound corny as fuck sometimes, but they stand the test of time for a reason.
Yeah.
You know? And one thing that I've been doing to help me through my journey, especially over the last like 4 years, it's been journaling. And then over the past year, I've been doing a video journal. Like, if I just had like the highest of highs or the lowest of lows, and I'm in the moment, and it's something that I just can't capture in pen to paper, I'll like record it. Some of them are 3 minutes, some of them are like 13, 25 minutes, you know what I mean? But and then I create an album where it's like, it literally is titled Future/Journey. And you know, sometimes I'll go back and it's a visual like reminder of like, wow, I really was stressing and worrying about this, and look at where I'm at now. Or, you know, sometimes like it's just like a, hey, like things could always be better, things could always be worse, just like you said. And you know, that's the beauty of life, is the journey, and all the ups and downs. And in the moment, it can weigh and be very, very heavy, but you overcome it, and then you're able to look back and just be like, oh wow, like I really got through that, and I can get through anything.
Yeah, like I did that. And I think the other thing I learned too is that, like, give yourself like your credit. Like, be your biggest fan.
Yes.
Be your biggest fan. Because I definitely went through times where I, you know, would kind of shrink myself in a sense to make others more comfortable, because they're like, oh, well, you're intimidating, you're mean, you're this, you're that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, like, I want to make this person comfortable, I want them to feel okay, but I'm like, that's your issue. Like, so I got to a point where I'm like, if I make you feel uncomfortable, even when I'm being nice to you, or even if I just walk in a room and you feel insecure, that's not my issue. Yeah. That's yours. You're projecting. Just like, you know, when my, you know, ex that I was with said those mean things, it's like in that moment I didn't react in a way I would have maybe a few months prior, because I'm like, this is you projecting some internalized hurt or something you haven't dealt with, and you're projecting it onto me. And that's not okay. And I hope he's healed from that and he's good with that. You know, and he had to apologize for it later on. But it's just to say that, like, don't internalize the things that people say and do so much, because 99% of the time it's just a reflection of how they feel within, and it's got nothing to do with you.
That's it, right? Like right there. And that golden nugget of advice right there translates to both sides of the fence. And, you know, because it's so easy to internalize and be like, oh, it's my fault because I said this or I did that. But more often than not, it's a reflection of that person, just like you said, of that person, what they're projecting onto you, and the stuff that they've like internalized. And speaking of both sides of the fence, our podcast is all about bridging the gap between the tough terrain and affluent acres. And in your opinion, what's one practical way people from each side can better understand and learn from each other? Yeah.
I think, honestly, just being open, just talk to people, like make friends or even just acquaintances, really get to know people. And I can say that firsthand because I have a very small, tight-knit friend group. I do also have a pretty diverse friend group. Yeah. Nobody looks the same. We all have had different upbringings, but I feel like at our core, from like a moral standpoint, we're all fairly similar, but then we can also have respectful conversations and learn from each other. For example, like I just had a conversation with one of my best friends, Maggie. Shout out Maggie, right? You know, and I mean, we still, you know, have conversations that are, you know, really insightful, or like, you know, she might say something and I'm like, oh, well, I can understand from this end because of my experience. And she's like, oh, like I never thought about it that way, or vice versa, you know? And I've had conversations like that with, you know, all of my friends. So I really think it's just being open and also being aware of your own, I guess, maybe biases, whether they're conscious or unconscious,
like
right?
that.
Because we all have them, whether we want to admit it or not. And not letting those things be a deterrent in getting to know someone. And it doesn't mean that everyone that you reach out to or try to interact with is going to work and you guys are going to be best friends,
Absolutely.
But it's trying, it's going with that open mind, and then, kind of going from there. So I really think just give people a chance. As you might learn things that you never thought, or, might see someone that you cross paths with every day, even if it's at work, right? And you get to know them and you're like, oh, wow, like, this was helpful. I had no idea. I've even had that with some former colleagues that I never got to work with, like, too much hands-on, but built a relationship with after, they left said company. And we talk regularly, and it's like I never would have even been able to connect or maybe learn about this person or learn about this part of their culture had I not just reached out and said, hey, how are you? Are you doing okay? Do you need anything? Can I be a reference for you?
Yeah.
So
that's
really, just be open.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And thank you for sharing that. And I'm 100% with you on that. And the power of conversation just unlocks a lot. We had a former guest, Drake Brown, friend in real life, and in the program, who mentioned that during the interview as well. And that is true, that like having those conversations can unlock so much, and you gain further insight and understanding, and it builds your empathy towards others. So I mean that seems to be the common answer for bridging both gaps. So have more conversations, people. Have more constructive
have conversations and be vulnerable. And it's not just on kind of like the cultural front. I think it's also just in like life, right? Like, yes, it's great, and I love learning about other, cultures and customs and traditions and all of that, but it's also even like connecting, like we were talking about, having kids older, connecting with people on that, or hey, I went through this really tough time, or I went through this really difficult financial situation, and it's like in me opening up about certain things with some of my closest friends, then they opened up about things, and it's just, you can just learn from each other across so many different ways, way beyond what we look like, and I think that's really important, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to do life and get through it as best we can.
Yeah, because just like you said earlier, life be lifing sometimes.
Life is lifing.
How can listeners connect with you and follow you on your journey? So this is your opportunity to shout out your socials and pages and all that. So floor is yours.
So I know I said I was working on a few things. From a hobby standpoint, which I am working through, I love crocheting. I've actually made like wearables, like cardigans. I have scarves, blankets. I made a couple dresses too. So Alexia Monet Designs. I do have an LLC for that.
Let's go.
On Instagram.
We're gonna have that flashing, and then for those listening, we're gonna have it in the show notes as well.
Yeah, and I also love cooking and baking. Honestly, if I hadn't gone to Penn State, my primary dream really was to go to pastry school. I wanted to do pastry school in France. Again, on the overachiever front, because I'm like, that's like some of the most difficult pastries and techniques, and if I can learn that, like, I'm good, right?
Yeah.
But I do also have a page for Alexia's Table that I am going to be launching ideally in 2026.
Let's go.
Curated menus for things, and my sauces, my roasted red pepper sauce,
roasted red pepper sauce. Alexia's roasted red pepper sauce. No one is fucking with it. I'm telling you right now. Right. Like, all jokes aside, when you do launch Alexia's Table, I will willingly promote it on the show and in general, because not just because you're my sister, but your cooking is up there, and my family just as a whole, the Black and Argentinian side, like they can really throw down. And
we even have cooking competitions.
Yeah, we have cooking competitions. Who does that?
To the point of ordering trophies and
awards. Literally.
But just those things, because it kind of goes back to finding that happiness and like what really drives you. So it's like, yes, I have this whole career and staffing. I've excelled at it. But then there's also these other parts that are more on the creative front that make me really happy, that I also want to pursue. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Alexia, thank you for taking the time to be on the show. You've been there for my whole life, and will continue to be. This is another example of that. And before I sign us out for today's show, I want to share a quick story from my childhood that defines how important and awesome my sister is. Okay,
I'm nervous.
I was in 4th grade, and I had a project due. I think you know where I'm going with this one. I mean, this is potential bonus content, so like we'll see.
Yeah.
But so there was a project that I knew I had to get done for like 2 months, and of course, because I was a big procrastinator before I was a very disciplined person that I am now, I was a big time procrastinator, and the project was due. And the night before at like 9 at night, I invaded my sister's room just like she mentioned how we used to do. I said, Alexia? She's like, what's up? She's like, I'm like, I need to do a ancient Egypt history project with like a time capsule, and I need to create like 5 different objects to put into it. She's like, okay, sure. Like, when's it due? I'm like, tomorrow. She stayed up. We literally stayed up till like 1 a.m. doing it. I literally went to school the next day, presented it. I got an A, and then the teacher was like, Andre, this is one of the best ones that I've seen. You must have spent a lot of time getting this done. I said, you have no idea. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode. If you like this episode, please be sure to continue showing us love on your favorite podcast streaming platform, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you're more of a visual person, check us out on YouTube at Andre Spruell. Like, comment, follow, share, and subscribe on all the favorite platforms that you watch the show on. And again, Alexia, thank you so much for being on.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And no matter what side of the fence you grew up on, we're all more alike than we think. My name is Andre Spruell. Catch you guys next time.